Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hello. So today we're doing a deep dive into something truly fundamental, the foundations of financial control.
Right. We talk a lot about markets, maybe specific investments, but this goes back to basics.
Exactly. We looked at some great material for this, and the core idea, really, is that most financial stress comes from, well, simply not being taught the basic rules of the game, how money actually works.
That's it, isn't it? It's like you're thrown into the deep end with your first job, first paycheck, but nobody gave you swimming lessons. You're expected to manage it all, but the operating system, the financial system we live in, it's a black box for most people.
It really is. And if you don't get the fundamentals, money feels less like a tool you can use and more like something working against you, an enemy almost.
So that's our mission today, right?
Yeah.
To decode these rules.
Precisely. We want to translate these, maybe sometimes complex mechanics, into something you can actually understand and use. These 10 concepts we'll cover, they aren't just vocabulary words. They're the actual pillars you need to build financial independence.
Okay.
Our goal is to give you the insights so you can stop being, just a passenger reacting to things and actually start steering your own financial life.
All right. So what's in this financial toolkit then? What are these 10 foundations?
We're covering the things that really dictate your relationship with every single dollar. So we've got taxes, banks, interest, inflation, then recessions, credit scores, currency, investing, value, and finally, time.
Okay, quite a list. Those really are the big ones, the levers of control, you could say.
That's a good way to put it, because understanding how they all connect, how they interact, that lets you anticipate things, make better choices within the system.
It's like getting the manual.
Yeah, the operational manual for the economy, but specifically how it impacts your wallet.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe with the one that hits us first. Every single payday.
Yeah.
That deduction.
Makes sense. Let's start with taxes.
Taxes. Yeah, that's often the first ouch moment, financially speaking. The sources had a great example. You get told you earned, say, $2,000, feels good.
Right.
And you check your bank account and it's 4,456 cents or something like that.
That missing chunk, almost 27% in that scenario, that's your first real lesson. The money you earn isn't exactly the money you keep.
It vanishes into these invisible forces, as the sources put it.
It does. It's a mix, right. Federal income tax, maybe state income tax, depending on where you live, and then the big social ones, Social Security and Medicare.
And it's a shock because it's automatic, it's complicated, you don't really get a say in it, not directly.
Exactly. So let's break down the types, because knowing the difference is key if you want to, legally optimize things later. First, there's income tax. Pretty straightforward. It's tax on the money you make from your job or business. Usually progressive, meaning the more you earn, the higher the rate on those extra dollars.
Then there's the tax when you buy stuff.
Right, sales tax. That hits the money you spend. Varies by state and sometimes city.
And the third one, this becomes really important once you start building wealth.
Capital gains tax. This is the tax on the profit your investments made. Stocks go up, you sell, you pay tax on the gain. Same for real estate, potentially.
And the rates there can be different, right? Especially for long-term gains.
Huge difference. Often, that's a core strategy, understanding the difference between your ordinary income tax rate and the often lower long-term capital gains rate. Managing that is crucial.
Okay, and those social taxes, Social Security and Medicare. How should we think about those?
Good question. Social Security. It's often misunderstood. It's basically the government requiring you to save for retirement, but it's not like a personal savings account.
Right. It's more like my contributions today are paying for current retirees.
Exactly. It's a pay-as-you-go system. Your contributions fund current benefits with the expectation that future workers will fund yours. It's paid back over time, yeah, but it's a societal agreement.
Yeah, Medicare.
That's the health insurance side. It's a tax specifically to fund health care for older people and also some younger people with serious health issues. Again, a deduction today for a current societal benefit or a potential future one for you.
Now, you mentioned the filing process earlier. The sources highlighted this kind of weird situation.
Oh, the paradox. Yeah, it's quite something. The government, the IRS, they already know how much your employer paid you. They get the W-2 info. They know what estimated taxes you paid.
But I have to figure it all out and tell them.
Yes, you have to do the calculations, often pay for software or an accountant to help guess the right number.
And if you guess wrong,
Yeah.
penalty.
Exactly.
Okay.
inefficient, to say the least. The sources suggest, maybe cynically, maybe realistically, that tax prep companies have lobbied hard to keep it complicated. They benefit from the confusion.
So if you want to pay less tax legally, you have to be proactive. It's not about cheating the system.
Not at all. It's about using the system legally. Things like contributing to a 401k or a traditional IRA. Those are pre-tax contributions. They reduce your taxable income right now. That's optimization.
And stepping back, the bigger picture, taxes aren't just annoying deductions.
No, they're fundamental. The sources rightly call them the cost of civilization. Roads, schools, police, fire departments, the military. That's what taxes pay for.
And there's that global perspective, too. Countries with higher taxes often have, well, better public services, maybe a higher quality of life overall.
It's a trade-off, absolutely. Studies often show that correlation. Higher taxes can mean better social safety nets, infrastructure, education. It's a balance between keeping more of your individual income and funding collective well-being. You just can't ignore taxes if you want financial control. Okay, foundation number 2, banks. What comes to mind when you think of bank?
A big safe, a vault, maybe like in the movies, with gold bars.
Right, that classic image. Maybe a dragon guarding it, the sources joked, but that's the bank myth.
Okay, so what's the reality?
The reality is, and this is key, the moment you deposit your money, that money's already gone.
Gone here.
It's not sitting in your personal little box in the vault. Banks aren't primarily storage facilities. They're financial matchmakers. They're middlemen. Their job is moving money, distributing capital.
How does that work then, if my money isn't there?
It works through a system called fractional reserve banking. Let's say you deposit $1,000. The bank legally only has to keep a small fraction of that on hand.
A fraction, like how much?
Historically, there were specific reserve requirements, like maybe 10%. Nowadays, in many places like the U.S., the official requirement can actually be 0. But operationally, they keep some cash for daily withdrawals, but the vast majority say $900 of your $1,000 they immediately lend out.
Wait, 0% reserve requirement? Doesn't that make it fragile?
It relies heavily on confidence and probability. The bank isn't holding your $1,000. They're using your deposit to make a $900 loan to someone else, maybe for a car, a business, whatever.
So my deposit creates a loan.
Yes. And that loan money gets spent, likely deposited in another bank, which then keeps a fraction and lends out the rest. It's called the money multiplier. Your initial deposit allows the banking system to create much more money in the form of loans than the original cash amount.
Wow. Okay, so the whole system relies on us not all asking for our money back at the same time.
Precisely. It's pure statistics. Banks bet that on any given day, only a small percentage of depositors will need their cash. But if something spooks people...
Like in 2008.
Exactly. A financial crisis, a loss of faith. If everyone lines up demanding their money, a bank run, the system breaks. The physical cash simply isn't there to meet that simultaneous demand.
Okay, so if they're lending out my money, how do they make money?
The business model. It's the spread. They lend your money out at a relatively high interest rate, say 5% or 7% on a loan or mortgage.
And they pay me?
Practically nothing on your deposit rate, maybe 0.1% in a checking account, if you're lucky. That difference between the rate they charge borrowers and the rate they pay depositors, that's their profit margin. You, the depositor, are the supply of capital. Borrowers are the demand. The bank profits from connecting them.
So why do I even bother putting my money in the bank then, if it's just getting lent out and I earn almost nothing?
Well, convenience is huge. Debit cards, online transfers, paying bills easily. It's hard to function without a bank account.
True.
But the big one, especially in places like the U.S., is safety. Not safety from bank robbers, but safety from bank failure. FDIC insurance.
Right, the government guarantee.
Exactly. In the U.S., it guarantees your deposits up to $250,000 per person, per insured bank, per ownership category. So even if the bank makes terrible loans and collapses, the government steps in and makes sure you get your insured deposits back.
Okay.
That insurance is what provides the underlying trust. It's why most people don't worry about bank runs day to day. It allows the fractional reserve system to function.
Okay, next up, interest. This feels like where things get really powerful, either for you or against you.
Absolutely. Interest is fundamental. The sources defined it perfectly. It's money's way of charging rent.
Right.
Yeah. If you borrow money, debt, interest is the price you pay for using someone else's cash. If you save or invest money, lending your capital, interest is the reward you get. It's the cost or benefit of using capital over time.
And there are two main types we need to get straight, right?
Critically important distinction. First, there's simple interest. Simple interest is, well, simple. It's a flat fee calculated only on the original amount you borrowed or lent, the principal. It's like, thanks for the loan, here's a one-time bonus. Doesn't really grow much.
But the other one,
Yeah,
that's the game changer.
that's compound interest. This is the engine. This is what can make you wealthy or keep you broke. The sources describe it like your money having clones. Yeah. With compound interest, the interest you earn in one period gets added back to the principal. So in the next period, you earn interest not just on your original money, but also on the interest it already earned. Your money starts making money. Those are the clones. And they also want to earn rent.
Let's talk about the bad side first. Compound interest on debt.
Oh, it's brutal. Think about credit cards. Many have rates like 20% APR, sometimes higher, if you only make minimum payments.
The interest gets added to what you owe.
Exactly. Month 1, you owe interest. That gets tacked onto your balance. Month 2, you're paying 20% interest on a higher balance. That $12 burrito you put on the card. If you let that compound for years with minimum payments, it can genuinely turn into a $50 regret. The interest earns interest against you. It's a financial fire.
Which is why the advice is always to pay off high-interest debt ASAP.
Immediately, aggressively, it's an emergency. But no, flip it. What happens when compound interest works for you?
That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Investing.
That's the cheat code. Let's say you invest and earn an average of, say, 7% per year compounded. Your initial investment earns 7%. Next year, that larger amount earns 7%. The year after, the even larger amount earns 7%.
It snowballs.
It snowballs. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. This is how wealth is built over decades, not days. There's a rule of 72, a quick estimate.
That word.
You divide 72 by your annual compound interest rate. The result is roughly how many years it takes for your money to double. So at 7%, 72 divided by 7 is about 10.3. Your money doubles roughly every 10 years.
Wow. Just by letting it sit and compound.
Exactly. So the hack, the core strategy from the sources is incredibly clear. If you're paying interest, especially high interest, treat it like a wildfire. Put it out fast. Use methods like the debt snowball or avalanche.
Okay.
But if you are earning interest through investing, be patient. Let it sit. Keep feeding it regularly, even small amounts. And most importantly, give it time. Decades of time. That's when the magic really happens.
Yep. All right, so compound interest can build wealth, but there's this other force constantly working against it, inflation.
The silent thief.
Yeah.
If compounding is growth, inflation is decay.
It's that feeling, right? Your $5 bill still looks like a $5 bill, but it buys fewer groceries, less gas, less everything over time.
That's exactly it. Inflation is the gradual decrease in the purchasing power of your money. The number on the bill stays the same, but what it can actually buy shrinks.
How do we measure this?
Usually with price indexes. The most common one is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. It tracks the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services: food, housing, transportation, etc.
And a little bit of inflation is normal, even good.
Yeah, central banks generally target a low, stable rate, maybe around 2% per year. It suggests a growing economy, gives businesses pricing power, and encourages spending rather than hoarding cash.
But when it gets out of control,
That's when it's damaging. If inflation spikes much higher than wage growth, everyone gets poorer in real terms. Your savings lose value rapidly if they're just sitting in cash.
so what causes inflation to spike? The sources mention three main drivers.
Right. The first is demand pull inflation. Too much money chasing too few goods.
Like the TV example.
Exactly. If suddenly everyone gets a stimulus check and wants to buy a new TV, but there are only so many TVs available, sellers see the high demand and can raise prices. $500 becomes $800 because people are willing and able to pay more. That's demand pulling prices up.
Okay, what's the second cause?
Cost push inflation. This comes from the supply side. If the cost for businesses go up, maybe oil prices surge, making transportation expensive, or supply chain disruptions increase the cost of materials.
They have to pass those costs on to the consumer.
They have to maintain their profit margins. So prices rise not because of excess demand, but because the cost of producing goods has increased.
Yeah.
That cost gets pushed onto the final price.
And the third one sounds psychological.
It really is. Inflationary expectations. If everyone believes prices are going to rise significantly soon, what do?
Rush out and buy things now before they get more expensive.
Exactly. Consumers increase demand now, and businesses. They might raise prices now in anticipation of future cost increases or higher demand. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Expectations themselves can drive inflation higher.
So inflation gets too high, what do the powers that be do?
The main tool belongs to the central bank, like the Federal Reserve in the U.S. They fight inflation primarily by raising interest rates.
How does raising rates cool things down?
It makes borrowing money more expensive. Mortgages cost more. Car loans cost more. Businesses find it harder to borrow for expansion. This discourages spending and investment across the economy.
It slows things down, reduces that excess demand.
Precisely. It's like tapping the brakes on the economy. It can be painful, might lead to slower growth or even a recession, but it's considered necessary to stop runaway inflation from destroying the value of savings and destabilizing the whole economy.
The big takeaway then: cash is not safe from inflation.
Not at all. Inflation guarantees that money sitting idle loses value every single day. You have to make your money grow faster than inflation just to break even.
Okay, so inflation is the slow heat, but sometimes the economy just stops or goes backwards. That's a recession, right?
Right. If inflation is a fever, a recession is more like a sudden chill. Officially, the technical definition is usually 2 consecutive quarters, that's 6 months of negative economic growth, measured by gross domestic product, GDP.
But it feels like more than just a number, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The real-world impact is what matters. You see widespread layoffs, companies freezing hiring, stock markets often drop significantly, and people get nervous. They stop spending on vacations and new gadgets and focus on saving for essentials. There is a general feeling of contraction, of anxiety.
Are these just random accidents? Or is there a pattern?
The sources strongly suggest they're part of a cycle. Economics isn't a straight lineup. It moves in waves. Boom, peak, bust, trough, then recovery and back to boom. Recessions are the bust phase.
So what triggers the bust?
It can be various things. Sometimes the central bank raises interest rates too high in fighting inflation, and that chokes off borrowing and spending too much. Other times, it's an external shock, a global pandemic shutting down businesses, a major war disrupting energy supplies, or a huge asset bubble bursting like the housing market crash in 2008.
I like the party analogy the sources used.
It's a good one. During the boom, the party's raging, credit is easy, everyone's spending, businesses are expanding, optimism is high.
Music's loud, drinks are flowing.
Exactly. The recession hits when the lights suddenly flicker on, the music stops, people look around and realize maybe they spent too much, maybe the company took on too much debt. Reality bites. The DJ switches to sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing.
Okay, so it's painful, but maybe necessary.
That's the perspective smart investors take. Recessions are painful resets, yes. But they're not the end of the world. They tend to clear out the excesses. Companies that were inefficient or over-leveraged might fail. Bad investments get exposed. It's kind of economic cleanse.
And governments and central banks don't just stand by, right?
No, they typically intervene. Central banks will usually cut interest rates to make borrowing cheaper again and encourage spending. Governments might implement fiscal stimulus, sending out checks, increasing spending on infrastructure to try and jumpstart demand.
Trying to get the party started again.
Pretty much. They aim for a quick recovery, often called a V-shape. Sometimes it takes longer, a U-shape, or worse, an L-shape, where things stay stagnant for a while. But the key is, recessions are cyclical. They end. Preparing for them, understanding they happen, is crucial for long-term financial health.
All right, let's shift gears to something very personal but also kind of mysterious. Your credit score.
Ah, yes. That 3-digit number that seems to control your life. Somewhere between 300 and 850, right?
Exactly. It's like this shadowy gatekeeper for your financial future. It's basically an algorithm trying to predict one thing. How likely are you to pay back borrowed money?
And it impacts, well, almost everything involving borrowing. Getting a mortgage, a car loan, even sometimes renting an apartment or getting a cell phone plan. And crucially, it determines the price you pay for borrowing. Someone with a great score might get a mortgage at 5%. Someone with a poor score might get the same loan at 8%, costing them tens, even hundreds of thousands more over the life of the loan, or they might get denied altogether.
It really is your financial reputation distilled into a number, a measure of trust for lenders.
Precisely. And the ranges matter. Generally, anything below, say, 580 is considered poor. You'll struggle to get credit or pay very high rates.
And the higher end?
Over 750 or so is typically considered excellent. You get the best offers, the lowest rates. You look like a sparkling, responsible adult to lenders. Most people fall somewhere in between maybe 640 to 790 in the good to very good range.
So how is this number calculated? It's not random, is it? The sources broke it down.
No, it's based on specific factors, though the exact formulas are proprietary secrets of the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and scoring models like FICO and VantageScore. But we know the main ingredients and their rough weights.
What's the biggest one?
Payment history. This is huge. Roughly 35% of a typical score. Simply put, did you pay your past credit accounts on time? Even one missed payment can significantly hurt your score. Consistency is king here.
Okay, 35%. What's next?
Amounts owed, or credit utilization. This is about 30%. It's not just how much debt you have, but how much you owe compared to your total available credit.
So if I have a credit card with a $10,000 limit, it's better to owe $1,000 than $9,000.
Much better. Using a large percentage of your available credit makes you look risky, like you might be overextended. Keeping your utilization low, ideally below 30%, even better below 10%, shows lenders you're managing credit responsibly, even if you have access to a lot of it.
Okay, so that's 65% already. What else?
Length of credit history. This is about 15%. How long have your credit accounts been open? A longer history generally helps your score, showing stability. That's why closing your oldest credit card can sometimes hurt your score.
Interesting. And the last 20%?
It's split. About 10% is credit mix. Lenders like to see that you can manage different types of credit responsibly. Maybe some revolving credit, like credit cards, and some installment loans, like a mortgage or car loan.
And the final 10%?
New credit. This looks at how many new accounts you've opened recently and how many times lenders have pulled your credit report, hard inquiries. Applying for a lot of credit in a short period can make you look desperate and temporarily lower your score.
Wow. Quite a complex recipe. The pet dog analogy from the sources was good.
Right. If you ignore your credit score, it can, well, make messes all over your financial life, high interest rates, loan denials. But if you understand it, manage it carefully, pay bills on time, keep utilization low, it can be a huge help unlocking things like affordable homeownership.
And the really surprising thing, the counterintuitive part,
is that having no debt and no credit history can actually result in a low or non-existent score.
right. You might think you're being super responsible by never borrowing, but lenders have no data on you. They can't assess your risk.
Exactly. So you actually have to participate in the system, maybe get a credit card, use it lightly for small purchases, and pay it off in full every month just to build that positive history and prove you're trustworthy. You have to learn the rules to, as the source said, rig the game back in your favor.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about banks using money, interest being the rent on money. But what is money, fundamentally? This next concept, currency, gets a bit philosophical.
It really does. The core idea here is that money as we know it today isn't inherently real in the way a house or a barrel of oil is real.
What do you mean, not real? It feels pretty real when I don't have enough of it.
Fair point. But think about what backs it up. A dollar bill, a euro note, it's just paper or polymer. It used to be backed by gold. You could theoretically exchange your dollars for a fixed amount of gold.
The gold standard.
Right. But we haven't been on a true gold standard globally for decades, since the early 1970s for the US dollar. Today we have fiat currency.
Fiat. Like the car?
No. Fiat in this context means by decree or by order. Fiat currency is money that a government has declared to be legal tender, but it's not backed by a physical commodity like gold.
So what is it backed by?
Trust. That's it. It's backed by the collective faith and credit of the government issuing it, and by the universal agreement among people that this piece of paper or digital entry has value and can be exchanged for goods and services.
So it's a social construct.
Yeah.
We've all just sort of agreed that this dollar bill is worth something.
Exactly. It's a highly sophisticated system humans developed to make trade easier than bartering chickens for shoes. It allows for incredibly complex economies. But its value hinges entirely on that shared belief. If people lose faith in the government or the currency itself,
Its value collapses.
Precisely. Think hyperinflation scenarios like Weimar Germany or modern Venezuela, where the currency became virtually worthless because trust evaporated.
So who manages this trust? Who controls the currency?
It's primarily two entities. The government, usually through its Treasury Department, is responsible for actually printing the physical cash and minting coins. But the more powerful player in managing the value and supply of money is the central bank.
Like the Federal Reserve in the U.S. or the European Central Bank?
Exactly. The central bank uses monetary policy tools, primarily adjusting interest rates, but also things like reserve requirements, though less used now, and large-scale asset purchases, quantitative easing, to influence the amount of money circulating in the economy and maintain price stability, meaning controlling inflation.
It sounds like a balancing act.
A very delicate one. Print too much money, or keep interest rates too low for too long, and you risk runaway inflation, devaluing the currency. Monopoly money, as the source said.
But if they tighten too much, print too little, keep rates too high.
Then you risk choking off economic growth. Businesses can't borrow easily, consumers spend less, unemployment rises, and you could trigger a recession. They're constantly trying to find that sweet spot to keep the economy growing steadily without letting inflation get out of control, all while maintaining that crucial public trust in the currency itself.
Okay, so if currency can lose value due to inflation, and just holding cash is a losing game long term, that brings us neatly to the next foundation, investing.
Yes, this is the proactive step. Investing is how you combat inflation and actually grow your wealth over time. It's the crucial shift from trading your time for money to making your money work to earn more money.
It's putting your capital to work.
Exactly. Instead of just saving it, you're deploying it into assets that have the potential to generate returns, hopefully returns that significantly outpace inflation.
What are the main ways people invest? What are the core vehicles?
The big ones are stocks, also known as equities. When you buy a stock, you're buying a tiny piece of ownership in a publicly traded company. If the company does well, grows its profits, its stock price will likely rise, and your ownership stake becomes more valuable. They might also pay out dividends.
Okay, ownership. What else?
Bonds. Bonds are essentially loans. When you buy a bond, you're lending money to an entity, could be the government, like U.S. Treasuries, a municipality, or a corporation.
And they promise to pay me back.
Yes. They promise to pay you back the original amount, the principal, on a specific date, maturity, and in the meantime, they usually make regular interest payments called coupon payments. Bonds are generally seen as less risky than stocks, but typically offer lower long-term returns.
Stocks and bonds. What about putting them together?
That's where funds come in, things like mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, ETFs. These are professionally managed pools of money that invest in a whole collection of stocks, bonds, or other assets.
So instant diversification.
Exactly. Instead of trying to pick individual winners, you buy one share of a fund and get exposure to hundreds, maybe thousands of different securities. It's usually the most practical way for most people to invest, especially index funds or ETFs, which passively track a market index like the S&P 500 and have very low fees.
And the last big category.
Real estate. Buying physical property, a house, an apartment building, commercial property, with the expectation that its value will increase over time, appreciation, or that you can rent it out for income, cash flow.
Now, investing always comes with warnings about risk, right? Markets go up and down.
They absolutely do. Volatility is part of the game. You can lose money in the short term. But the sources were really clear on this. The risk of not investing is actually far greater over the long run because inflation is a certainty. If you keep your money in cash or a low-interest savings account, you are guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. Investing involves short-term volatility risk, but it's the only reliable way to outpace inflation and build real wealth over decades. The bigger risk is letting inflation quietly erode your future.
So what's the winning strategy then? Is it about timing the market, being smarter than everyone else?
Not according to the evidence. Trying to time the market jumping in and out based on predictions is notoriously difficult, even for professionals. The sources consistently emphasized a simpler, more effective approach.
Which is?
Be early. Start investing as soon as you can. Be diversified. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Use funds. And be patiently consistent.
Like dollar cost averaging.
Exactly. Invest a fixed amount of money at regular intervals, say, every month, regardless of whether the market is up or down. Sometimes you'll buy high, sometimes low, but over time it averages out and removes the emotion from trying to guess the perfect moment. Combine that with a long time horizon.
Decades, like you said, with compound interest.
Yes. Most wealthy people didn't get there through one brilliant stock pick. They got there by consistently investing in diversified assets and letting compound growth work its magic over 20, 30, even 40 years. Patience and discipline beat genius and luck in the long run.
This next foundation, value, seems to connect economics with something more subjective. It's not just about working hard.
No, not directly. This concept challenges the common idea that wealth comes purely from working more hours. The sources argue that true wealth creation comes from providing value, and value is often in the eye of the beholder.
Explain that. How is value subjective?
Think about the rock analogy they used. A plain gray rock you find on the street has basically zero economic value. But a specific type of shiny yellow rock gold has immense value. Why?
Because it's rare. Because people desire it.
Exactly. Its physical properties aren't that different from other metals, but humans have collectively perceived it as valuable for millennia due to its rarity, durability, and appearance. We assign value based on perception, scarcity, and desire, not just utility.
How does this apply to earning money? It explains why some jobs pay so much more than others.
Precisely. It's not always about the hours worked or the physical effort. It's about the value provided. A top surgeon might work hard, yes, but they earn millions because the value they provide, saving a life, restoring health, is perceived as incredibly high, and the skill is rare.
Or inventing something people want.
Like the iPhone example. Steve Jobs and Apple created immense value by putting a powerful computer, communication device, and entertainment center in millions of pockets. People were willing to pay a high price because the perceived value was enormous. High value creation impacting many people or solving critical problems commands high compensation.
But value can also be manufactured,
Yeah.
based purely on perception.
Absolutely. This is where branding and marketing come in. Think about luxury goods, a Gucci handbag, a Rolex watch.
Okay.
Functionally, that handbag might not be significantly better than one from a department store. It holds stuff. But Gucci has built a powerful perception of exclusivity, status, craftsmanship, and desirability around its brand.
So people aren't just buying bag, they're buying the brand, the status.
They're buying the perceived value, and they're willing to pay 10, 50, 100 times more for it. This happens with art, collectibles, high-end services. Value is heavily influenced by perception, story, and branding.
So the insight for someone wanting to build wealth is
Figure out how to create significant value. That could be real value solving a major problem, inventing something useful, providing an essential service with rare skill. Or it could be perceived value building a strong brand, creating scarcity, tapping into desires for status or belonging. If you can deliver high value, whether tangible or perceived, you can potentially disconnect your income from the sheer number of hours you work. And that leads us perfectly into our final and arguably most crucial foundation: time.
time. We all have it, but nobody has an unlimited supply.
It's the ultimate finite resource. And in finance, the sources argue it's the most powerful asset you possess, especially when you're young.
How does it relate to making money? Most people trade their time directly for it, right? An hour of work equals an hour's pay.
That's the standard model, the linear relationship. You work X hours, you get paid Y dollars. But it has a natural ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day you can work.
So wealthy people break that link.
Often, yes. They use leverage, maybe financial leverage, using borrowed money, employing others, creating systems, or using technology to make their time incredibly valuable, or to generate income without actively trading their time. Their focus shifts from selling hours to creating value or owning income-producing assets.
But where time really shines is in investing, connecting back to compound interest.
Unbelievably powerful. The sources were emphatic. Time is a greater force in building wealth than having a high income, being lucky with investments, or even being particularly smart about markets.
More important than how much you invest.
Over the very long term, the length of time your money is invested often matters more than the amount you invest, especially if you start early. We talked about the rule of 72 money doubling roughly every 10 years at 7%. That doubling happens over and over again.
So someone starting earlier, even with less money,
Can end up far wealthier. The example is classic. Investor A starts putting $500 a month away at age 25. Investor B waits until age 40 but invests $1,000 a month. Who likely has more at retirement age? Say 65.
Investor A, the early starter.
Almost certainly, and often by a huge margin, even though Investor B contributed more total dollars later on. Why? Because Investor A's money had an extra 15 crucial years for compound growth to work its exponential magic.
It's that slow start and the curve gets steep later on.
Exactly. In the early years, compounding feels slow. Your earnings are small.
Yeah.
But as the principal grows, the earnings on the earnings become substantial. In the later decades, years 15, 20, 25, and beyond, the growth can become almost vertical. Wealth isn't built quickly, it's built steadily over decades.
That's actually really empowering, isn't it?
It's incredibly empowering. It means you don't have to be rich now to become wealthy later. You don't need a genius investment strategy. Ordinary people with regular paychecks can absolutely build significant wealth, potentially 7 figures for retirement, simply by doing the basics. Investing consistently in diversified, low-cost funds, and most importantly, giving those investments decades of time to grow.
So start early, stay consistent, be patient.
That's the formula. Time is the great equalizer in finance. Use it wisely.
Wow. Okay, so taxes, banks, interest, inflation, recessions, credit scores, currency, investing, value, and time. That's a lot, but it feels like the complete picture.
It really covers the essential operating system, and the core message from all the material we reviewed is clear. If money feels confusing, stressful, or like something that controls you, it's probably because one or more of these foundational pieces wasn't fully understood.
But once you grasp them,
Everything changes. You move from being reactive to being proactive. You understand the why behind financial events. You can make smarter decisions about debt, savings, investments, even your career path. Understanding these 10 fundamentals is genuinely the difference between feeling lost and achieving real financial control and mastery.
you start playing the game instead of being played by it.
Exactly. From knowing how to legally minimize taxes, to making compound interest your employee instead of your enemy, to understanding market cycles, to leveraging time, it all works together to put you in the driver's seat.
Okay, so we've covered a ton. We learned that value isn't always tangible. It's often about perception. And we hammered home that time is perhaps the most critical asset we have.
2 incredibly powerful concepts.
Which leads us to that final provocative thought you mentioned earlier, something for everyone listening to really chew on.
Yes. Given that value can be perceived, and time is your most precious, non-renewable asset, the ultimate question to ask yourself is this.
How can I structure my life, my work, my business, my skills, so that I'm compensated not just for the hours I put in, that finite resource, but for the perceived value I create?
And how can doing that allow me to effectively buy back more of my own time, reinvesting it as I choose, rather than constantly trading it away for survival?
So using the rules of value to reclaim the asset of time.
That's the ultimate goal for many seeking financial freedom. It's about building a system where your value generation, compounded over time, gives you true autonomy over your life's most valuable commodity.
A powerful idea to end on.
Indeed.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the 10 foundations of financial control.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, if you want more real-world financial knowledge that actually helps you get smarter with your money, make sure you subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.